Hey guys, Luca King here from TheBitFeed. Today we're going to go through our BitFeed investment philosophy for ICOs and cryptocurrencies. I think it's super important that we basically establish a framework and some ground rules for how we invest in cryptocurrency projects, and especially ICOs, because from experience, we know that ICOs can come out as scams and they can come out as fraudulent, and basically trying to build out a framework that minimizes the risk of being part of a scam or being part of a pump and dump, and things like that. So let's go through this just quickly. Cool. So just to preface this, this isn't groundbreaking information that people don't know. This has been pretty much well documented through my Twitter and Michael's Twitter, but also through some bigger cryptocurrency figureheads, people like Ian Bellina, who, if you look at his spreadsheet, you know how he invests. So what we like to do is keep it really simple, something that we've been advocates of from basically day one, not to get too complicated in the way that we invest, and try not to, spread ourselves too thin. And just as a disclosure, some of the examples, and not all of the examples used, are cryptocurrencies in my personal portfolio, the BitFeed portfolio, or Michael's portfolio. So we're just using them as examples because they're the ones that we've researched the most and know the best. So don't take it as don't take them, do your own research before you invest if you think that they're good investments. So the first obvious one that everyone should really be honing in on here is, the teams that are building these projects need to be A class, A plus. And what do I mean by A plus? I mean that they either have to have executed, multiple projects beforehand, worked in big corporations where pressure is high, built consumer products or any product for that matter to scale, and just had that experience. Because the thing is that once you hit that ICO phase, that crowd sale phase, and there's a high possibility that you will get picked up by the media and have a lot of people interested, have scammers target you. You need to know how to effectively mitigate all that risk and all of the edge cases that can happen, and fulfill investor obligation and all the governance that goes into building out an ICO firstly, but then not only the ICO and crowd sale phase, that's the first hurdle, that's the smallest hurdle. It's then building the product and executing on a working product that says what it's going to do, and scale it out and be able to handle X amount of transactions, and be able to, handle, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people interacting and trading with it. And there's so many different aspects that you need to worry about in terms of regulation. So in terms of, we try to follow this Jeff Bezos regret minimization network, and it's essentially that we want to make sure that every little part of what we invest in, we're minimizing the amount of shit that can go wrong. So just by doing an A plus team, they is 100 times better than you at what they're building, and you have conviction that they know what they're doing and that they're experts in the field, you can already just with that know that they're going to have your best interest at heart, and they're going to want to protect themselves in any way possible. So examples of that are the Ripple team. Great, working with regulators, working with big banks. Perfect example of an A plus team being able to generate partnerships and generate business at the highest level, and at a level where in the banks where they don't even want cryptocurrencies. They're trying to stop cryptocurrencies with JB Morgan and all these people sort of refuting the genesis of cryptocurrency. The second one is Symbol Token, and we just did a review on Symbol Token today. Basically, Symbol Token and Jason Goldberg, incredible. I won't go into too much detail, but incredible crowd sale, incredible execution on the crowd sale, and now delivering products. So an example of teams who, Jason and Sunil, the founders of Symbol Token, have worked together for the last 15 years, scaling out big startups, raised $300 million together, did all these different things. So again, you have some conviction that moving forward, they're going to be able to do similar and perform at a similar level and at a high level, because they've experienced all these different things between raising money and scaling out products and doing all this. So you know that they know where the hard points and where the problems are going to be. And then 3, Binance. We know Binance now, and I've been following Binance from day one. Was in their product management, sort of helping out with their product through their Slack anonymously from almost day one. I knew from day one, based on the team, CZ, man, like this guy has incredible experience at the banking institutional level, has scaled out products before, and their entire engineering, the suite of engineering team that they have is incredible. And it's just showing up in their product, the way that people are flocking to Binance. They in 7 months, $1 billion in revenue. It's incredible. And it's not just because of the A plus team; it's because of timing and it's because of all these other factors. But again, if you want to break it down and pick one area for why this might happen and the best reason for success, it's going to come down to the team execution and experience. So that's my reason for team. And then just as a side note, you want to have at least one technical co-founder. If you're going to enter the blockchain industry and you're going to build a blockchain project and you see that there's two non-technical co-founders, two marketing people, for instance, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I'm not saying that to, to discredit any marketing experts, because that's a big part of blockchain. But blockchain projects are highly technical projects. They're not flimsy projects. They're not marketing plays. You really need to nail down. If you want to have a business with longevity, you need to have someone there who's guiding the product decisions at a technical level, at a low level technical level. So someone like in Ethereum, Vitalik, great example of a technical co-founder who's going to drive those product decisions and know and be the expert in that space. NEM, another example, and Walton Chain. And they're three projects that are really crushing it right now, just on the technical front, and it allows product decisions to be fast-tracked, and then allow partners and be able to optimize all the different use cases. So it's really, really important that you have a technical co-founder. Even if it's a marketing play in the blockchain industry, you need to have that technical co-founder to drive those decisions. And that's just a way for us to minimize risk in the long term, because if they can't execute on that, on the technology part, then basically the business is fucked. Cool. 3, we like to invest in businesses that are basically building transformative technology, and Ian Bellino refers to it as infrastructure plays. I put out a tweet the other day about, wanting to invest in infrastructure, offline infrastructure, online infrastructure. So because we haven't yet established a foundation for cryptocurrency, and we don't know who the real players are yet. We know that Bitcoin's a big player and Ethereum's a big player, but over time these things will shift and change, and it'll be really dependent on what businesses can create higher transaction, lower mining fees, reach the most people, scale out the best. So right now, the transformative technology and infrastructure is, a Bitcoin, for example. That's the incumbent, and then newer ones coming through. For example, IOTA with Tangle Technology and Zilliqa with their sharding, just examples. And there's what I found is that the top 20 currencies, or top 15 at least, they're all infrastructure plays. So in terms of our ICO investment strategy, we're going after them because we know that they're the ones that are going to establish and allow the dApps to be developed in the long term. So that's a big thing for us. Infrastructure, online and offline. PundiX is another example of offline infrastructure, allowing people in the everyday world to be able to access cryptocurrency and buy and sell through their payments network. Cool. Next one. Our next philosophy is about strong use cases. There needs to be a reason for people to use the cryptocurrency, not just in terms of cryptocurrency pricing. I'm talking about cryptocurrency revenue generation internally in the business. I don't care about the price so much. I want to make sure that these businesses are businesses that have 5 to 10 years of revenue generation, real revenue generation, potentially billion-dollar businesses. And examples are QuantStamp, BlueZil, PundiX. QuantStamp's doing a great job auditing these big smart contracts for cryptocurrency projects, and while they're starting off small with the SMB equivalents right now, they're going to be moving their way up and talking to exchanges, talking to the Coinbase or talking to the Binance and saying, hey, look, you need to validate that your smart contracts are basically rock solid, and we want to be able to be part of that solution to make sure that everything is looking a-okay. Cool. So like BlueZil building out their storage solution, and as these dApps become more prominent, they're going to need a way to build out more decentralized. We'll be able to use a decentralized storage rather than using centralized storage, and I think that that's really big. And Sia is doing a great work there, and so is StoreJ. And I think BlueZil probably will. I think at the moment BlueZil, I'm bullish on BlueZil because they're executing at a much higher level and have much bigger partnerships. Really recently announcing things like with their JD incubator partnership, but it's really, really strong obvious use cases where in traditional industries, traditional data storage industries have performed incredibly well in terms of revenue generation. So BlueZil is an example of that. And then of course you have PundiX, which I just mentioned, which is building out their offline transaction ecosystem, which is it's going to basically allow they're the first players that will allow the next billion users to come through and be able to invest in cryptocurrencies, but then use them for transactions and everyday purchases. Whoopsie daisies. Cool. And then obviously another factor here is about positive consumer sentiment. And while I don't like to hedge my bets too much on positive consumer sentiment because it can be transient, you really need the timing here is really important, and being able to make sure that people are on board with the vision and the mission and are saying positive things about it, because whenever you first hear about a cryptocurrency, your perception of that currency tends to be manipulated very easily by your first contact with some tweet or some piece of news. Or so if you saw bad news about Bitcoin, it's going to take you a little while before you start to build trust in Bitcoin again with more positive news. So things like WanChain, Zilliqa, Bluezil, that all three of those had incredible positive consumer sentiment, and right now they're all performing incredibly well. Bluezil at 5x, Zilliqa went to 20x, but now at 8x, I think. WanChain hasn't released yet, but I imagine that's going to do very, very well, and I'm bullish on WanChain in general, but also with Fusion, and Fusion's done quite well, 3x in a bear market. All bullish, all projects with positive consumer sentiment, which have done very well so far. So just in terms of a short term returns aspect, you really need to drive through and invest in projects that the consumer and the investor love, and they share, and has a high NPS, a high net promoter score. Cool. An obvious one here, just about partnerships. Partnerships are, well, for two reasons, right? Partnerships are important for two reasons. One, it shows that business development's happening and that they're looking for revenue generating opportunities. Partnerships don't necessarily mean revenue, but it means that down the line there'll be opportunities to create revenue. But then number two is that investors want to hear regular news about their currencies. They want to feel like there's progress being made. So I feel like the more transparent these currencies are with their progress, the better they'll do in the long term, because investors can build an emotional attachment to the currency. And while I think that there should be no emotional attachment in investing, that's what happens. So the novice investor will become emotional about it, and you need to investing in cryptocurrency in general you have to play off the psychology of it all, the psychology of the market. And I think that regular, transparent updates is something that will affect the price in a positive way or a negative way, depending on the nature of the partnership. So Bluezil's done a great job of that. They're constantly posting up partnership updates. PundyX as well, with their CoinNest distribution of their PundyX point of sale device. Symbol Token every week, just pumping out content about what they've been up to and what they've been achieving from a technical front, but then also from a business development and commercial front. So partnerships very, very important, I think, just as a little indicator of progress. And it can be a vanity metric, and it can be not a vanity metric, but a vanity, I guess a vanity metric in a sense that, it could be just whitewash, and it could be, very small partnerships, but I think any progress is good progress. Cool. Obvious one here. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick, guys. Working product. If you don't have a fucking working product, how the fuck is this business going to be revenue generating in the next 12 months? They need to be developing really either users at a high level, at scale, or getting money in the door. And if there's no product, they can't do any of those things. So Binance is a perfect example of working product. Day one, they executed, and now they're generating $1 billion plus in revenue. Symbol Token hasn't been generating significant revenue yet, but has two working products: their OST KYC product and their OST kit, basically their core business. And then PundyX is delivering fucking hardware, which is an incredibly hard business to be part of. So I'm curious how that will go and how they start building revenue streams from that. But Binance is by far the pinnacle of product execution and how important that is to drive price. Binance went from 50 cents to $20 over like 7 months. So those investors who got in early and saw that working product, a really good example of how this product works. And then they reached consumer scale and investor scale, and before you know it, you basically 40x your money, which is an incredible feat. Cool. And just some nuanced considerations in investing. One, there's a unit bias that investors have. So you have to realize that as an investor that other people, novice investors, will flock towards coins which have a lower price. And while this actually doesn't mean anything, you have to realize that and sort of make your investment decisions. I wouldn't base your investment decision off that, but I would just be careful in understanding what the psychology of the market is. I know I have friends who, and I tell them not to do this, but they're on Binance and they'll go to the cheapest coin by price and they'll just buy it because it looks the cheapest. But what they don't understand is that has nothing to do with what the market cap is or the circulating supply. And really, you should be looking at market cap and looking for upside opportunity, looking for that working product, for the partnerships, for the strong team. That's what you should be looking at. But just that's something that you can think about. Two, roadmap. People love to hear news. People love to, ramp the price up before a mainnet launch and all these sort of things. And while you wouldn't base your investment decision off that, you in terms of timing the market, you really want to have a look at that roadmap and see where it might pump, how long you might have to wait, what's the opportunity cost of waiting until the mainnet launches to get that 2 or 3x gains, and look for other opportunities in the meantime. And then finally, just well-written white papers and yellow technical papers. And I think these are really important just to show that's the first contact of execution for the team. So if they've got a crappy white paper with spelling mistakes and just little things like that, or the technical paper isn't really that technical, you're probably going to find that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that if they've done shit work there, it's going to be they're going to be doing shit work in the actual product development side. So I think that's the first point of contact for execution. And if they've done a good job there, there's no definitive, you can't definitively say anything, but you can say, okay, well, they've done a solid job building out the white paper and yellow technical paper, explaining it. The communication has been clear. Let's see what the next thing is. I have more faith in them as a business and as a team. Cool. So that there is everything about the BitFeed investment philosophy for ICOs and cryptocurrencies. It's very simple, guys, and we like to keep it simple at the BitFeed. So if you have any questions, please just put in a comment below, or hit me up on Twitter at Real Crypto Gains. I'm right here, and just let me know what you think. So that's basically everything there. We'll be coming out with more reviews over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to be ramping them up. So if you have any thoughts, let me know. See ya.